Hello everybody and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out a very early version of something called Musical Stacks by a developer who seems to just go by the name Clyde. This is a 3D physics-enabled music sequencer where we're going to be able to arrange and knock apart stacks of bricks, sort of like a Jenga tower. And the bricks are actually going to light up with little like LED blinking on them and generate a whole bunch of varieties of different types of music. It's not so much a game as it is an experience or toy, and I do cover these on occasion, so hopefully you guys are okay with that. And I just think it has really cool implications and a surprising amount of like imagination firing going on just from seeing the infrastructure, what's built here right now. So as you can see, this game requires sound, as the introduction here seems to let us know. We can press space to re-roll. We're going to be doing that quite a bit. We can move our block, because we actually have sort of like a manifested block that we can interact with the physics-enabled bricks with WASD, arrow keys, or left stick, so we can actually use a controller on this as well, and we can click on boxes with the mouse to make them active, and by active it just means so they'll pick up a sound instead of pass over. Alright, so we're going to click the whatever button, and see what we get. So it's going to generate a variety of different sequences based on, so we've got height to the bricks, we've got a tempo, we've got pitches, and I believe it actually calculates based on a number of factors. So it says scales are determined by dividing the highest pitch by how many bricks tall the columns are. Sort of an interesting way to look at it, and definitely a cool sequence of events that you can imagine all of these various things happening all at once to generate what could be a very moody or thematic sequence. So this brick here, you'll see the square one is the one that I can control with the arrow keys. It has a great deal of momentum. As you can see, we seem to have gotten generated a very low tempo sort of scenario here. So I'm going to actually just lift this up into the air and Hulk smash down onto it. You'll see the world is very large, but we don't necessarily have the ability to use most of the space that we're given. In fact, if you want to, you can actually take this block far out of the general world that we're given. And in fact, it'll even go one block bigger than that, and at that point, you pretty much just completely lose your placement. In fact, I think I've already lost my placement. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I was going to try and smash down, but that was not a possibility. So I'm going to hit spacebar. This is not the best example of the things that I can generate. Let's see if we can get a better one. Okay, we got a very discordant kind of tower here. And you'll notice that the blocks will stay in their same sequence once they break apart and everything. So it honestly doesn't matter what I do as far as like knocking into these, rearranging them, or whatever I want to do. The only thing I can really do to change the musical sequence here is to actually just take my mouse and start clicking away at some of these bricks. And I think the more of them in this particular one that I click on, it's basically just going to make more of a discordant bunch of sounds. You can actually get things that are very harmonious and melodic, as well as things that sound like this. Just sort of a bunch of computery noise, which I think is actually really cool. Don't get me wrong, I'm totally into both sides of that, both facets as it pertains to music, and I think there's actually some really cool implications to where this kind of a thing could be used in gameplay and other facets. For example, I'm thinking, what if you had a world that you could generate based on the tonality that you create in a situation like this? I could also see if you had a massive sequence that went on for like a mile, you could just completely generate music out of this, which would be really fun. Generate it and then also edit it via this sequence, although the ability to smash them with physics honestly doesn't make a huge amount of difference. That's mostly just for fun as far as I can tell. It does seem though like there's a little bit of stereo positional stuff that'll happen based on where you keep your block. It seems like things pan left and right a little bit based on where I move this sucker around, so, you know, you guys experiment, see what you can figure out as well. I am using headphones, and I do recommend that, because you kind of get the best experience. Let's generate another one. Okay, this one's kind of a nice, chill, harmonic one. I kind of enjoy this, or melodic one, rather. And I like the correlation that we've got between, so we've got a speed, we've got a color, we've got a height, and the general background feeling as well. So I mean, the color meaning both the background to the bricks, the background of the bricks, and also the floor tile. So in this case, I feel like we're almost in some sort of like a late evening, getting ready for bed, sunset sort of just happy time. It's not a scary time like we've had with some of those other towers. And I like the implications of what if you were to apply that to and I sort of started going down this road, but then I kind of derailed myself. If you had this as sort of a seed generator for something like a Minecraft sort of situation where we could create a landscape based on a tonality that we set through this. I just think that's got such a cool idea behind it, where you could actually create a whole world that's based on a feeling, because we've never really explored that in any of these things. Seeds for those sort of random game generation schemes are always very much just a string of numbers and letters. We've never had the ability to actually bring a little bit of our own feeling and imagination into things. Because everybody, when you hear something like this, I assume you're going to start to map it to some sort of feelings. You're going to have all these neurons firing and synapses firing that are telling you, this makes me feel like this. I'm triggering little memories that I've had that sort of follow the same sequence. The colors, the sound, all of that is coming together into one grander scheme that you don't generally explore as much, especially when you're creating a world. So I was thinking that that has some really neat implications. This one is a lot faster, and actually, I think there's just enough delay or reverb or something going on that's causing this loop to just sort of turn into one tone, which is also another kind of interesting element. What if you were to be able to nest these sequences inside of other sequences, and we say compartmentalize this tone into one block, and then we could apply this tone to other blocks that we could then put into sequence and create like a city out of these bricks. And again, to go down that same sort of Minecraft idea, what if you were to be able to build a building, or indeed an entire town or city, out of bricks that all have sounds that trigger at various points, or are just constantly looping in sequence? Imagine the feeling of being able to walk down a street and every so often you hear a completely different theme playing. I think that would just be such an interesting new twist on it, because we've explored so much with light and color and feeling in that manner, but sound usually doesn't play quite as big a role, and I think this would kind of let you readapt some of that. This is where I think the game gets a little bit weird sometimes. I kind of wish you were able to set the tensile strength, or like the rubber adaptability of the bricks, so they could actually absorb more energy when they fall. Because you get these kind of cool obelisks or structures like skyscrapers that'll, you know, build themselves, but they pretty much always just collapse under their own weight. And I think it would be kind of neat to make that association that the taller a building gets, in a way, the more oppressive sounding it ends up being. And that seems to be the pattern that's reinforced here in Musical Stacks. Let's re-roll again here. Yeah, it does seem to be the trend that if it's tall, it's going to be generally pretty discordant. If it's small and wide, it tends to be a lot more harmonious and peaceful. And this one just sounds like a chord of a bunch of people rubbing their finger around the outside of a glass of water almost, which is maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I tend to make those jumps a lot of the time. And I've had somebody tell me that even in a prior video, I think it was on Egg Boss, like I described music as a rainbow, and I kind of really do intrinsically link colors and sounds together. I know that's synesthesia. I don't know that I necessarily always feel that I associate things in a synesthesical manner, if that's even a word, but sometimes, you know, I get triggers that hit memories a certain way. Memories might have a predominant color scheme in them, and then I can kind of adapt that to music. But, you know, in general, I have like a very active color art imagination, as I'm sure you've probably been able to pick up based on some of my descriptions in prior videos. This one reminds me of Strange Think quite a bit, another developer. Something about the pink and purple with this sound scheme sounds a little bit alien, and I think that actually fits quite well. I'm actually really enjoying just re-rolling these and seeing what kind of vibe I pull from the landscape. I'm also imagining this is like a Thomas Was Alone expansion pack, where we could add various soundscapes to the world based on the tiles that are already in existence there. Just like let them light up at arbitrary times and create sounds around that. Oh, this one's weird. I don't think I've ever seen this color before. So we've got like a pea green, orange, tan, and brown black thing going on. This is definitely not the prettiest color scheme. Also, there is a spotlight happening here, I think. Oh yeah, there it is. It's like the only one light that seems to exist in the world, but I'm really excited to see where this goes in the future. I would love to see the ability to maybe craft these worlds a little bit more delicately, be able to set the tempo, change the, you know, the rubbery strength of the bricks, have the timeline stretch out ad infinitum. If you could create blocks within blocks and all of that kind of stuff, I think it could be very interesting. And this could actually become a sort of fully featured musical sequencing device. I mean, the ability to mess with the blocks is kind of tangential, but again, it's fun. It's just, you know, something to do. And I'm also imagining, what if you could trigger things in sort of a boom block style, where if you knock into them in a certain way, it would reorient all of the sounds that sequence themselves based on the the proximity of blocks to other blocks or the way that things scatter. I think there's a lot of interesting implications there as well. So we've got a very low, very slow tone here. I don't even think... Is anything even lit up? Oh, they're actually so hard to distinguish from the background, you can't even hardly tell. Yeah, I guess they're just slightly more orange. I don't know if that'll come through in the video as well as I would like. And that's another thing that I always forget. There's a little bit of compression, or, well, in some cases, a lot of compression, as with some videos. When they hit YouTube, it tends to make things darker and blurrier. So I try to fix that however I can in post-production, but it doesn't always work the best. All right, this one's a little bit too slow. I can't hardly get any vibe from it. This is just another single tone, it seems like. I really like the color scheme to this one, though. Now, this is actually a kind of a nice idea, too. You can actually get inspired for color chips or schemes in general if you're doing, like, graphic design work just by looking at the color schemes that come up here and the feelings and the vibes that end up associating from those colors. So you could actually take this and use it for inspiration for completely unassociated work. Oh, what's this one gonna do? Oh, this one seems kind of delightful. And I know I can edit these, but I kind of like letting them play just the way that they've configured themselves. A lot of the time, they actually sound quite nice. Yeah, this is very peaceful. This is harmonious. This is enjoyable to listen to. I think also that the fact that that one spotlight is there, it gives it just enough of a mild gradient in the background that it feels like there's a little bit more going on than there actually is. I can see there being more stuff happening in the background, but I also kind of value the fact that it's just a solid color, too. But imagine we could go into, like, one of these individual blocks and then create a timeline within that block and then let that timeline play when that trigger plays. I think that's really fun. And I've done a lot with music sequencers before, and I wouldn't say that this is necessarily on the same page as anything like that, but I could see the potential arising from it right now. Let's re-roll again. Okay, this is kind of another tone. In general, I just wish they were all a lot longer. I would like to hear a little bit more play out. And the propensity for some of them to be more note-based versus chord-based would be kind of cool. I mean, I would say that you could add rests, but I guess the blanks between notes are kind of rests in their own right. Oh, this one's very dark. This is almost like a reconfigured, like, even darker, dimmer version of that other one that we had that seemed like a dusk scenario. My eye is actually almost drawing a slightly more blue gradient where the crimson meets the violet. I don't know if it's just the reflection off my monitor, but I'm totally seeing that. Yeah, I think it is just a reflection. Sort of random little bit of color that's hitting me for some reason. Oh, this one's happy. What's going on here? I can almost not even see the bricks. The background's so dark. That's nice. Oh, this one's a bit taller. But the tempo's so slow, I don't think we're going to hardly hear it. Or I should say maybe BPM is more correct here. Wow, that's slow. Tower, let's test it. Yeah, this one's creepy. Oh. It almost resolved a little bit there. So from the first chord to the second, it actually almost sounds for a moment like it could be some sort of very, very mildly, like, gospel-y kind of sound. I'm getting, like, a little bit of a heavenly choir feeling from that. And then it goes back into Discord world. What about this one? So slow again. We need to put a cap, or be able to put a cap on some of the BPM rates here, because this is so slow you almost don't even want to listen to it. Maybe I'll just let this one play through. You know what? That took a very, very long time. I'm sorry. Oh, this one's interesting. This might be the closest to an actual theme, I think, that I've heard in a bit. I could absolutely hear this playing as just sort of background music while I wander around in a 3D space. It's got a whimsical, just like bordering on curious tone about it, and I find that really interesting. just what can arise by just letting numbers just propagate and create sounds is just, that is endlessly fascinating to me, and tying that to visuals in 3D space is just a thing that I think we haven't even come close to beginning to really embark upon the journey of exploring. And I hope that's a thing that we can do at some point. So anyway, I think with that, I'll leave you on Musical Stacks. You should definitely go check this out yourself. There will be a link for the PC, Mac, and Linux version of this. And again, it's very early in development, so there could be some pretty big changes to the way that the structure works in this. And I do hope that it gets elaborated upon quite a bit, because I find this to be one of the most fascinating of the sort of toy brand sort of things that I've come across. I don't even know what to call these. They're just toys. Experiences, I guess, in this case. Yeah, I feel like toy has a sort of negative connotation. I don't mean it like that. It's an experience, an experimental little bit of something that you can play around with for a little bit. And I find that, toy seems to make sense for that. But anyway, that's going to do it for another episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this pondering on all of these concepts. And if you did, consider leaving a like on the video, because that helps me out a whole bunch. And the download link again for this is going to be right in the description, so feel free to go grab it yourself. Create some music sequences and loops and stuff. Maybe bring it into Fruity Loops and play around. Maybe make some music out of this. I don't know if that's any kind of rights violation. I certainly hope it isn't. But I think this is probably just triggering some MIDI sequence stuff that you could probably do anyway. So whatever interface you happen to use as a musical artist, I don't think that should really come into play too much. But anyway, that's going to do it, guys. Thank you again for watching. I will see you tomorrow. New episodes of Indie Impressions go up every single day, so I'll see you for that, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Talk to you all later.